Okay, I think we're ready to begin, so please, ladies, gentlemen, take your seats. It would be much better if you guys took the seats up front when you get a much clearer picture of us and the candidates, and you'll be able to, and the speakers, and you'll be able to hear better what they say. So come up front if you guys want to. There's plenty of seats up front. Right. Well, my law firm, Frishberg and Partners, we've been here since '91. And our job is to help foreign investors. And when political turmoil occurs in Ukraine, like elections, foreign investors don't really come readily. So for us, although we're lawyers, politics is a very, very important aspect of our practice. We depend on it. So for that reason, we hold roundtables with the best insiders who advise all the presidents that we can find, so we can find the latest information about what is about to happen in Ukraine during this pivotal time in history. Because depending on who becomes the president, this will change the outcome of Ukraine's trajectory for the next 50, 70 years. So this is actually a very important time to monitor the elections. Today we have 3 speakers, all of whom know Ukraine, I think, better than anybody. The first one who will be speaking is Mykola Veresen. He is a TV personality and actor, a top-notch journalist with his own television show, which airs nightly live. That means that he will have to excuse himself and leave this place at about 5:30, in about 2 hours from now, because he has to attend a taping. So what we'll do is, we're going to have him speak first. Then if you have any questions and answers, he will respond, and then he'll have to go, and then we'll continue with presentations of our 2 other speakers, who is Alexander Savchenko will speak second, and as you know, he was National Bank of Ukraine deputy chairman twice. He was Ukraine's representative to EBRD in Moldova and Belarus, and I think he is still advisor to everybody in Ukraine, economic advisor. And then we have Mr. Pashaver, who has also been an advisor to all presidents except Yanukovych. And he is the foremost, not just economist, but philosopher. His orientation of Ukraine, where Ukraine should be headed. He was handling under Kuchma privatization for state property fund, and co-wrote most of the laws. So it's interesting, Mykola Veresen will be talking about what is the role of journalism in Ukraine during the elections. This is interesting because we know what happened to Khashoggi, who was killed in the consulate in Turkey, Saudi Arabia. We know what happened, I forget the name of the Bulgarian journalist who was raped and then killed. We also know what Trump is doing to CNN. So there's a lot of negativity these days, shall we say, towards journalists. And it's interesting to find out from the premier journalists, how are journalists treated here in Ukraine during the election time, during the pivotal time in the history when the oligarchs own the television stations? How do journalists survive? How do they get the truth out? Dr. Savchenko, he will speak about who is actually electing Ukrainian presidents. And there'll be 3 pillars he will discuss. Interestingly, none of them are Ukrainian people, as it is in most parts of the world, how democracy functions. In Ukraine, Dr. Savchenko will argue, we have 3 pillars, which are oligarchs in Ukraine. We have Russian KGB guys who are disinformation and very actively in Ukrainian positions are tilting the Ukrainian position toward the Russian position. So Russia is a very aggressive player in electing Ukrainian presidents, American presidents too. And last but not least, the third is the weakest of them all electorate impact on Ukrainian elections is the West. The West simply talks and doesn't really do much else. So those are the 3 pillars that elect Ukrainian presidents. Again, none of them are the people. So what he will say, we're looking for somebody from like Macron candidate, somebody who's from the inside, but who is from the people. And that's the topic Dr. Savchenko will address. Last but not least, Mr. Pashaver will talk about the personalities which are now running for election in Ukraine, presidential election, and for Ukraine, the consequences. What if each one wins? What happens if Poroshenko wins? What happens if Yulia wins? What happens if Gritsenko wins? And I think we pretty much know that there's nobody else who's up for re-election, even though Zelensky could be good, Vakharchuk maybe or not. But all these guys are not really going to win. They're not going to get the full vote, at least in my opinion. So Mr. Pashaver will discuss this. And now, because it is such a pivotal time in Ukraine's history, I will turn over the table to the floor over to Mikola Denisy, and with your permission, I'll just do the translating.